What is going on, everybody? Shri Kanase here. So in this video, we're going to be looking over one of the most overlooked things in dropshipping, and that is looking at the suppliers and choosing your suppliers correctly so you don't end up getting screwed. So recently, I've been seeing in a lot of Facebook groups that people got screwed over because their supplier gave them fake tracking numbers, and weeks later, customers are complaining that they can't even track the product and the supplier is not responding anymore. And I've also seen people complaining that their suppliers overcharged them without them knowing, and now they can't get a refund. While this seems a bit stretched out, this is absolutely true and it happens often. So you don't want to get in such a situation, especially when you're scaling and enjoying your first winning product. But you will have to stick till the end to know exactly how to choose those correct suppliers, which aren't just after your money, but actually do provide the service they offer, which is shipping out products, and do it diligently. So when it comes to choosing suppliers, we need to understand why it is even important to choose a supplier in the first place and why we need a good supplier. So when it comes to e-commerce or dropshipping or just business in general, customers demand these three things: quality, speed, and service. So if you noticed, the suppliers that you use actually have two of these three things in their control: quality and speed. Of course, since a lot of you people watching this video do dropship, speed is something that cannot be changed, since with ePacket, the time range for getting a product delivered is 12 to 22 business days. So the one thing left that can be changed is quality. Service depends totally on you and your VAs as to how you provide the service. But when you have a good supplier equals good quality and speed, because many of these good suppliers also ship out their products the next day when they get an order from you. In addition to just the speed, these suppliers are also really careful about the quality of the product. They make sure to double check, triple check the products that they get, and some of these suppliers manufacture them while others actually don't manufacture them but act as middlemen. Simply like you drop shipping, these suppliers drop ship from another company. So when you do take the time to choose a good supplier, you're lowering the average processing time, because again, these good suppliers don't like waiting. They ship out usually the next day. And you also get the reassurance that they are shipping with ePacket, because I've dealt with a lot of suppliers where they claim that they're shipping with ePacket, but in reality, it was not shipped with ePacket, but rather Aliexpress standard shipping. And the shipments were on average 25 to 35 days. And believe it or not, these suppliers do lie, especially if it's not a good supplier, because they want more money in their pocket. So they ship out with Aliexpress standard so they can get the money for ePacket and keep it for themselves. So it is really important, as you can see, to even focus on suppliers to prevent any type of problems, especially again while you're scaling. But what are the consequences of a bad supplier? We already went over a few, but when it comes to slow shipping, your customers are going to start to complain. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Even when you use a good supplier, customers are often complaining because even on average, shipping times are again 7 to 22 business days. But with these bad suppliers, they're taking a lot of time processing your order, and they're usually not shipping with ePacket. So you're looking at around a 30-day range for getting a product delivered. And this is of course going to lead to a lot of customers complaining, often chargebacks. And in addition to the shipping problems, these bad suppliers often don't even care about the product. They're just trying to make that money. So they often have products which are faulty, inaccurate to the descriptions or the images, or they save money on packaging the product and the product arrives broken. So overall, even the product quality itself is very low, and it's sort of like a ticking time bomb, because after a while, customers are going to start complaining to the point where you're having to lose trust with your customer because of these bad suppliers. You're going to be facing a lot of chargebacks, and it is also possible that your entire Shopify store, your payment gateways can be closed completely. I had this happen to a good friend of mine where she had a chargeback rate of above 1%. Hers was around 2%. And because of this, Stripe decided to close her payment gateway account, and she was scaling at that time. So during such times, it is a very bad thing to happen, and the consequences are often really disastrous. But how do you judge suppliers then? What do you do so you don't have to face such consequences? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I have an easy few-step process which can let you decide whether the supplier you're dealing with is worth doing business with or not. So the first thing that I look out for is that they have a positive feedback rate of 95% or more. I do not usually use a supplier if he or she has a positive feedback rate of less than 95%, because even 95% is very, very average. That means you've had multiple people who have been unsatisfied with the product or your shipping speed or anything else. So anything below 95%, you're just calling on to disaster yourself. In addition to that, one important metric that I like to use is that the store is open for more than 6 months, because usually the bad stores will close within 6 months to a year. And such stores which are open for less than 6 months, even the bad ones have 100% feedback, because the people that work in their company leave fake feedback for their own products. And this is really possible. Even sellers on Amazon do this. So that is why if you're dealing with a store which is more than 6 months old, usually there's too much of a time gap for it to be a bad store. And especially if it has over 95% feedback, that is really a good sign. Along with that, you want to be looking at shipping options. If the supplier doesn't even offer e-packet, that's a straight big no right from the start. You don't even want to use that supplier. And if they offer any type of other shipping options, you want to make sure that it is as fast as e-packet, if not faster. Because there are a few shipping methods which are faster than e-packet, but the minimum is e-packet. And along with that, the product that you're trying to buy or test or add to your store, it needs to have a rating of 4.0 or more. Usually in my experience, if a product has less than 4.0 stars for their reviews, it is not really a good product with a lot of quality, or it has some other problems. And even if the product starts selling well, you really don't want to invite these problems, because in the future, once people start getting their orders, they will start charging back if the product is bad. And usually a product with less than 4-star reviews does have problems with it. So one thing you want to do to make sure that even if it's at 4 stars, that the reviews are real, because again, a lot of AliExpress suppliers like to fake their reviews. In fact, one of my suppliers in the past told me that a lot of AliExpress suppliers ship a large portion of their product, the main winning product at least, to an empty house in the United States or any other country to make it seem like that product got a lot of orders. And once it gets delivered after a few weeks or months, they will often act as if they bought those and leave feedback for themselves. So these things are very sketchy, and they do happen. So in order to not fall into a trap like this, you need to really make your decisions based on the metrics that the supplier has, and not just go based on feelings or emotions. Because I know it is really exciting to get your first winning product, but once a product just starts to sell, you really want to look at the supplier and see if they are worth your time and if you should continue doing business with them. Because once you get a large portion of orders and the supplier turns out to be a fraud, you're going to be dealing with a lot of bad things. But the last thing you want to be looking out for is the description. Is there a good description written for that product? Because in my own experience, trustability is associated with the description as well. Those suppliers which are trustable often take more time to put more information in their description to make sure that the reader knows everything about the product. And those suppliers who don't have big descriptions are often those people just trying to make money quickly. But in addition to this, you want to look at one specific question which a lot of people don't even know about exists on AliExpress, and that is the buyer Q&A. If I see questions asked by other buyers in the buyer Q&A, that is really a good sign that this supplier is trustworthy, especially if they have answered and the buyer Q&A is in the last portion, and I'll be showing you that very shortly on an AliExpress product page. But I want to go over test orders after I show you the AliExpress product page for an example product which I have opened up here. And this product, let's say we're trying to sell a phone holder. So one main reason, along with finding hot selling products, that we sort by the most amount of orders is because the suppliers with the highest amount of orders are often the suppliers that you can trust yourself. And that is because they have reached a certain amount of orders where they can't have reached without being loyal and actually providing the service they offer. For example, this supplier has orders for this product which are at about a 71,350, and even with this amount of orders, they have about 4.5 stars of reviews. So clearly this supplier is trustworthy because of the high amount of orders and the reviews. But even if a specific product doesn't have reviews, if they have 70,000 orders, you can feel a little bit safer trusting that supplier. And I know a lot of other Shopify gurus say that they need to have a specific trust badge which tells you that they are trustable, but I don't think that is very necessary. The most important thing for me is the amount of reviews and the amount of orders. So let's go ahead and look at this specific product right here, because this one, there is no e-packet shipping in this case, so I would just avoid using this supplier for my product. But this supplier does have e-packet shipping, so if we open up the specific product page, I like to start from the top and work my way down. So the first thing that I look at is the positive feedback. Again, 95% or above. This store has a feedback rate of 98.2%, so it passes our first criteria. And even though the specific amount of rating for them may be below average or equal or slightly above average, I don't really pay attention to this. When you reach a high amount of orders yourself, you're gonna have difficulty trying to respond to every customer request or order on time. So this is kind of common, especially when you have high amount of orders. The main thing is the amount of positive feedback in total. The second thing is how long this store has been open. So this store opened in September 21st of 2018, so more than 6 months, which is a good sign. And now we move on to the third part, which is the reviews. As you can see, 4.8 stars, and they have 11,921 reviews, which is a really big number, and you should feel free to trust that number. And they have about 50,000 orders, again, a really good number. So clearly this supplier right from the get-go is someone you could trust if you were scaling this product and wanted to place orders with him or her. But if we scroll down now, we want to look at the description. As I mentioned, if they had put a lot of time into the description, have a lot of details, that is a really good sign. So as we can see right here, this supplier has a lot of photos and they describe the product in the photos as well. So they do a lot of describing via the photos, and they don't have much text, but that's fine because the photos do the explaining. And now we move on to the reviews in the bottom. So you want to read through the reviews, actually make sure that they're real from real people. And the best way to know that is if there are real sentences like these or paragraphs like these. Often if a supplier has fake reviews, there's not going to be any sentences at all. It's going to simply be 5 stars or 4 stars or whatever they want it to be at. And finally, the buyer Q&A section. So this right below the reviews is the buyer Q&A section. And as you can see, a lot of buyers have asked questions, 86, and this supplier has responded to each and every one of them. So all signs are met that this supplier is a great one, and you can be reassured that this supplier, if you were selling this product, would do a good job of shipping out your product for you. But those are the main metrics when looking for suppliers. So after you've confirmed all of those things and you're still kind of doubting the supplier because there may be 1 or 2 metrics the supplier did not match, you want to place a few test orders. Let's say you got 2 or 3 or 10 orders for a product. Out of those 2 or 3 or 10 orders, order a small portion from the supplier that you're still a little bit hesitant about. So for example, if I was hesitant about this supplier, I didn't want to really trust this supplier because of some issues, then let's say for example, I have 10 orders for this product. I would only place 3 orders with this supplier and see when he or she provides me the tracking number and how early the tracking number starts updating and the average shipping time. So place a few test orders, and after ordering, message supplier regarding questions. The speed in which the supplier responds back to you will really kind of indicate whether the supplier cares about your satisfaction or not. Let's say for example, you message this current supplier a question and they respond a week later. Clearly they're not really that interested with your questions. All they're cared about is money, so you can be reassured that your 2 or 3 orders will be the final ones you'll be placing with this supplier. But if you see that after placing these orders and messaging the supplier, they respond to you in a timely manner, you will know that this supplier is definitely a good one to keep, and you can start placing more and more orders with them. Usually the next step is messaging them for their Skype or WhatsApp or WeChat account so that you can get special deals on this product, especially if you're scaling. Never be afraid to reach out to them to ask for deals, because in business, the lower your cost of goods, the higher your profit margin. So do whatever you can, negotiate how much ever you can to lower the cost, especially if you're placing 50 orders, 100 orders, 1,000 orders per day. And that is exactly how you judge your supplier and make sure you don't end up getting screwed over during the biggest important phase of your e-commerce career, which is scaling. But leave a comment down below if you've ever been screwed over by a supplier so that other people can also learn from that. But make sure to like this video to please the YouTube gods and subscribe if you haven't already while you're at it, and I'll see you guys next time.